Howdy ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 531, The Changing Faces of the Detroit Lions. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Jeff the Riz Risden. How you doing, brother?
It is good to be with you, Chris. It's a holiday week. It's the dead time of summer. Happy July 1st. Happy July 4th, everybody. USA. USA. I have been obsessed with the Olympic trials lately. Nice. All I've been watching, so I'm ready for the Olympics. I am a massive Olympics fan, so it's great to get some action going and getting things. I don't watch baseball at all. I'm aware that the NHL is having free agency, and I'm aware that the NBA is having free agency, but I don't really follow that all that closely. So Olympics is for me. Yeah. Before we get football. And we do actually have some football to talk about, too.
Yeah, it's time to really show who's got the meat on the bone this time of year, putting together some podcasts, putting together some content. And we got some for you. We've got the meat and we got the bone. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we'll do our warm-ups as people join. We get to do those things like we do. We're also going to talk about changing roles of the players on the Detroit Lions. This is kind of the concept that we're talking about in the show today, the changing faces of the Detroit Lions. Existing players and how their roles are going to change, because the next part, we're going to have some focus on some rookies and how they are and what they're doing is having an effect in pushing some players around. One of the warm-ups will also tie in with that whole theme. And then the last piece, the Sunday ticket lawsuit. Let's get ready to spend some money. Who cares if it's here yet? It's always spend before you get. That's my motto. Let's have some fun. Nothing better. So the first part, free your mind. I want you to free your mind. There's a interview with Mark Schlereth, and they asked if they thought that Dan Campbell was going to dial back his aggressiveness. He's like, no, I don't think so. I think that's just the way he wants to play. And he's like, my guys knowing what the odds are, we're going for on fourth down. It takes the pressure off on third down, and they have kind of a duality on third down than any other team in the NFL. 3rd and 7 becomes a running play possibly, and with the idea that these guys are going for it on fourth down a lot where it makes sense, Ben Johnson's playbook is often wide open on third down. The mind is free. Counting the playoffs, the Lions had a top 10 conversion rate, 41.7% of third downs last year, and a 53.3% success rate on fourth downs, 24 for 45, tied for 13th. So free your mind, Riz. What's your thinking about this?
They went for it. Only the Panthers went for it more. Only the Panthers succeeded more. Didn't actually help Carolina all that much. And some of that was the fact that they did not have a good punter either, so they really kept going for it. But that was sort of their way of trying to take advantage of being crappy. I'm like, oh, we'll catch them off guard. Well, the Lions are very good at it. I love the fact that it shifts the pressure to the defense. That they know that, okay, we get this third down stop. We got to do it again? Oh, man. Like, there's that much more pressure. The pressure really does shift on third down from the offense. Like, we got to go get this now, otherwise it's over. To the defense, like, we got to stop them 2 more plays. Like, we got to play a normal set of defense here. Like, we can't just unleash our pass rush specialist on 3rd and 8 because they might run a draw play or they might do something different, set up 4th and 2. Or something like that. Like, that might be good enough for them.
Yep.
That's a massive X's and O's, playing chess instead of checkers advantage for the Detroit Lions. And the other thing that it does, this is something that I talked about with Jim Schwartz way back in the day. When you let your offense stay out there instead of punting or kicking, it says to your defense, I believe in you. I know you can get a stop. That's going to raise their boat. The rising tide raises all boats, man. Like, it gives them that much more confidence. Like, hey, my coach believes in me. He trusts us that if this doesn't work, that we're going to get the ball back for him and he can try it again. And that is not something that I think a lot of people grasp all that well who haven't played. In any sport, it's like that. It's not just football. Like, if you could, there's just so many advantages, little tentacles of advantage that come out of being able to have that sort of dictation to what the other team. The Lions are seizing the initiative. They are dictating their own fate. That's what I want my team to do. I don't want the passivity. I want to go for it. Go for it.
Think about it like this. It's not just on 1/3 down. Oh, the Lions might pass. Let's rush, right? Oh, okay. You caught us, right? You ran the ball. Next time, okay, we're going to defend the run. So now you really being forced on defensive coaches, and it's going to stretch their capacity and their capabilities to be able to react to that. And it happens multiple times in a game. So again, if you just start doing pattern recognition like teams often do, and Ben Johnson sets this stuff up so well, but if they run, come out with the same formation, they're going to run, and they go all in on the run, and Stafford steps back and blows it to Jamo 49 yards down the field, right? I mean, it changes. It's, again, that's my dream scenario, right? But every single play on 3rd down and long is a different chess match that's happening inside of the game, and that's where Ben Johnson is absolutely a master. And this is how you take an offense and craft it around the capabilities of your staff. And when you have a franchise tier, top shelf quarterback like Jared Goff, which many more people agree with me today than they did just a few years ago, you really do update and upgrade the free your mind, because that whole field is now yours to play with.
And that's one of Goff's best attributes, is decision making. He's very good pre-snap at understanding, okay, I'm reading the defense that looks like they're taking this away. And Ben Johnson has given him the freedom and the initiative to sort of, call the best play based on what he sees and the players around him. That's one of the things that I don't think we as the Detroit media do a good enough job of conveying, is how high the collective football IQ of this team is. Yeah. It's a very, like, if you're not a smart guy, if you don't know how to learn in some capacity, you're probably not going to last very long in Detroit, on this Detroit Lions team. They need guys who understand football, who understand concepts, who understand sight recognition, who can figure out that, okay, I'm going to see this, and I know that my teammate over here is going to see this, and I don't know my teammate next to me here is going to see this. Especially true on the offensive line, but like with the wide receivers and tight ends too. They all have to be on the same page a lot for this offense to work. And that doesn't work if you've got guys out there who don't know what they're doing. And the Lions have done a great job of bringing in guys who do know what they're doing, who see things the same way, and who grasp the playbook and the concepts very similarly. And that's not something that we're used to in Detroit. That is something, and I hate to give them credit for it, that's something the Green Bay Packers did exceptionally well in the Aaron Rodgers area, especially early in his era, was that they had a lot of guys who saw the game the same way as him. And as we've learned, that's not always that easy to do. As the Jets are finding out right now. And I think that the Lions deserve a lot of credit for finding that and for cultivating it without having guys like the Patricia regime who were very pigeonholed to one specific style and they couldn't get outside that. Like we've talked about Trey Flowers before. It's a good football player, very good in certain roles, and that was the Matt Patricia role. Take him outside of that, you put him in this current defense, Aaron Glenn's defense, he's not good.
Yep.
And they have gotten rid of that player. By the way, I don't want to insinuate that Trey Flowers is not he's a very, very smart, high-level football player. Yep. He just didn't fit this team. His body type isn't the right one, although they've sort of chased it with Josh Paschal.
Yeah.
John Kaminsky too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of little, like I said, the tentacles of intricacy that come off of the little things like that. This team is just, we're in such good hands, man. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I got called out in the chat. I called Goff Stafford in my scenario there. I didn't recognize that I did that. Sorry about that. I misspoke. Little muscle memory still kicking. Goff can't hit Jamo deep is probably one of the silliest takes I think I've ever heard. He's hit all kinds of players deep all the time.
He's actually overthrown him a few times.
It's unique to Jamo, and Jamo is often not at the right point in his route or doesn't run the right route, and he doesn't have problems hitting other guys in that way. And everybody, including Jamo, talked about how he grew and became into a professional football player this year. I think it's silly for people to try to put the Jamo Goff connection on Goff when everything points to it's a Jamo thing. But that's okay. You can believe what you want.
Jamo, by the way, has acknowledged that he's got to run better routes, and
yep.
to his credit, he's done that. Now,
this is going to be a great year. This is going to be a great year for both the Jamo narrative and the Goff neighborhood narrative in that little connection space, because I genuinely believe that what we saw from Jamo, and I told you what I mean, I've told them on the Slack, I've mentioned it here on the show, what the inside talk was about Jamo. And everything that I talked about with people has proven itself out in the conversations that have happened publicly since then. I'm really excited now for Jamison Williams on this team, because I think Jamo has grown into himself and his position and has matured to where he's going to be where everybody wanted him to be at the beginning. And I give a ton of credit to the Lions coaches, because I think on just about any other team, he would have been washed out of the league. I really do, or at least
certainly
washed
other
out to
Lions
another
regimes
team
that we've seen,
or washed over to another team and then maybe found himself. But this was, and I don't want to not give credit to Jamo either, because that self-awareness and self-recognition, huge importance in being able to do this. So great effort from everybody to pull this around, and I'm super excited to see what now Jamo really is going to be.
And I think the Lions are too. I know they are. I know they're excited by what they've got in him, and that's why they're not pursuing any other wide receivers, and you will not see other wide receivers brought in. They and agents have asked. I know an agent of a current free agent. Detroit not interested in bringing in any receivers at this point. Now that could change once camp starts and somebody gets hurt, or they realize that maybe the Tom Kennedy roller coaster probably isn't worth riding again. You know, maybe they want something a little bit different there. Maybe Antoine Green isn't coming along as well as hoped. Although I did see some progress from him as well this spring. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But they're pretty good with their top four being Amon-Ra, Jamo, Khalif Raymond, and DPJ.
Yeah.
They're good with that.
Yep.
Internally. Doesn't mean that they don't think that they might, if they get a chance to improve, they will. They will, but they don't really see that right now. They don't see that as a need, not nearly as much as a lot of the fans do. And that's straight from the coaches. That's straight from the horse's mouth right there.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what we got. That's what's going on. That's to free your mind. Now the rest will follow. Another thing. Let's get to it. You may or may not have heard. Right? En vogue, yes, my friend. Yes. You may or may not have heard that the Detroit Lions have the number one offensive line in the NFL as per PFF, Pro Football Focus. Lions take the top spot, led by Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow. That's tough for a Bears fan. That's tough when they have that Swiss cheese monstrosity that they're facing down there on the at the racetrack, right? Or soon to be at the racetrack.
They're not out to the racetrack yet. They're still in the lake right now in the alien spaceship that sat down on Soldier Field.
Nothing's going to bring the heights lower than the Chicago Bears in Arlington. So what do you think, Riz? This offensive line, we've been touting Hank Fraley for a couple of years and his top talents and his ability to bring the boys along and grow these fellas. You lose Jonah Jackson and you become the number one line in the NFL. How did that happen?
It's the starting five. And I talked about, I did a solo show on the offensive line status right now. Please check that out. It was good. Good feedback on that one. I like it. I did tight ends. Next up will be the wide receivers. That's going to be recorded probably Wednesday morning. So you should have it Thursday or Friday.
Sexy. I love that.
Yeah. I'm gonna get through all the main position groups before camp starts, and I got a little bit of travel coming up, but we'll get these done. It'll be good. But Graham Glasgow is your worst starting offensive lineman, and most of the time he's an above average starting offensive lineman in the NFL. That's how good. The old axiom is you're only as good as your worst lineman. Well, if Graham Glasgow is your worst lineman, like he'd be number 2 on a lot of other offensive lines, Chicago's included. And that's a pretty dang good place to be. Depth, okay, got some depth issues. We have some potential solutions to those depth issues, but they're very unproven.
Sorry, just really quick, I want to hit the James Houston Memorial. We've got depth issues on offensive line. As we know, every year we say this, and I knock on the effervescent wood below me. Every year, Hank and team prove us wrong. They hold up in incredible fashion.
They're very good at what they do.
But go ahead and put it out there, man. We got to do it. It's a yearly tradition.
It's very unproven depth. Yeah. And the depth that has been proven, Coyote Alshika and Dan Skipper. Like, I like those guys. I love Skip being on the team as your extra offensive lineman, but I don't want him playing on the line. No,
he's a hell of a fullback.
He is.
Or a tight end.
He's a great blocking tight end.
Yeah.
Great blocking tight end. Great extra tackle. Probably the best in football. And the Lions use that a lot. And it's a great role for him that he's carved out for himself. And he does know how to report legally, too, even though, what's his name, doesn't necessarily see it that way. But backup tackle, we couldn't have gotten any worse than Matt Nelson was. Think about that for a second. Now he is. Just to bring that up, he is the Giants' backup offensive tackle now. And there is some talk in New York that he might threaten to play some. We know the Matt Nelson experience.
Yep.
I'm very happy that we moved on from that. No offense to Matt, but just wasn't there. It wasn't ever going to happen with him. And I feel a lot better where we're at now.
Yeah.
A lot better.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yep. Ooh, boy, oh boy. All right. So there you go.
PFF, not the only place that rates the offensive line the tops. My friend Brandon Thorne, who does, what's it called? Building the Trenches or something like that. He's an offensive line specialist. He works with Duke Manyweather, does all kinds of stuff. He's an offensive line guru, basically. And he has the Lions as the top one as well. And please check his podcast out, even though I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, Brandon. It's Brandon Thorne. He's a great guy. Goes to all the events. He knows these guys very, very well. And he has the Lions as the best one, too. So it's not just PFF, for those of you who hate PFF.
All right, so free your mind. Free that playbook on third down, and the rest will follow. The rest of the league's following that number one. Boom! En vogue. Let's get together, folks. I do have to do a quick announcement. August 3rd, that night, DOP, training camp party, Uptown Grill. We'll see you there. All right?
Yes,
tickets will go on sale this weekend. Riz will mention it in his tight ends thing. Won't you, Riz?
I will.
And a
wide receivers.
Number of the same cast of characters will be there with Ash penciled in dark pencil. It's what is it? Is number 3 or number 1 darker than number 2?
3 is darker.
Okay, he's in a number 3 penciled in to join us. Standard cast of characters. We're gonna have a good time, as we tend to do.
It'll be good.
August 3rd, that evening at Uptown Grill. We will be there for the party. We'll see if we can get Russ and Bish and the rest of the guys out there as well. They have a good time. Have a lot of fun. Good stuff. And yes, Peaceful Tim, the old-fashioned, Scott's old-fashioned. I got to get that recipe, actually. I was supposed to send it to somebody. Excuse me. All right. Thank you. I got to write that down right now. All right, so that's it. Free your mind and the rest of the file. Let's get on to it. We're going to get into Lions players and changing roles. Now, this is, again, we're going to talk about the vets, the guys who've been around and what they've done historically and how they're moving this time or this year. And a lot of that is because of the rookies that have come in. Some of that is about some schematic changes that have happened, again, due to the rookies coming in or some of the changes. So we just want to, this is a longer theme in the show. And so we're going to talk about this kind of by player for some of the names that we know are changing positions. And I think the first one and the most important one that everyone wants to know about is Jack Campbell changing to goaltender. This is a big deal.
It's not confusing at all, man.
Lions picked up the Red Wings picked up Jack Campbell, but not our Jack Campbell.
How many freaking goalies do they need?
All of them. Get all of them. It's a denial of talent strategy. You just field a whole team of goalies and you'll never lose. You can't lose if they don't score, right? That's why defense is so important.
I guess not.
All right, let's get into it. Jack Campbell, not the Detroit Red Wings' new pickup at goaltender, but our lovable linebacker. Is he green dotting it this time? What's going on with Anzalone? What's happening, Riz? How is his role changing in 2024?
Well, first off, he just got married over the weekend.
Congrats,
so congratulations
Jack.
to you, Jack, and the missus.
Yeah.
I love that their wedding photo was him topless, and his girlfriend like posing in a bikini by a waterfall.
I wish it was the opposite, but that's fine.
I mean, take what you can get.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Congratulations to them. From what we saw this spring, Jack Campbell is effectively usurping Derek Barnes as a starting inside off-ball linebacker. There's some fuzziness. You can call him the Mike. You can call him the Will. They're sort of interchangeable. Him and Anzalone can both do both. But you're going to see less of Jack Campbell moonlighting. Remember last year they tried him out at the Sam role for a lot, which is effectively a pass rushing role, where they're standing up and either they're running with the tight end or they're attacking the passer in this defense. And he wasn't all that good at that. And some of that was effectively just wasn't trained at it. He has shown the emotional maturity, growth, and recognition, and again, high football IQ, understands his teammates better, understands the role better, and that's going to keep him on the field. And I don't know if it's going to get him the green dot or not. That's a good question, because I think Anzalone is really good at that. And I think we saw the best Alex Anzalone we have, and
yeah, he was fantastic.
If he stays healthy, I think he's going to be fine. But
he was down at UF.
You're going to see those two.
Sorry, can't get
Gator
out of the Gator.
boy.
You watch. Just next year, we're going to hear a whole lot of Michigan Tech stuff, right?
Probably.
Can't help it. Go Gators.
Might see some paraphernalia in the background here for long too. Yeah. The football team isn't that great, unfortunately, but that's okay. Yeah, Anzalone and Campbell, you're going to see a lot of them. And again, it's one of those things where they're not necessarily interchangeable, but they both can do both roles well enough that you're going to see them both in both roles, I think. We certainly saw that this spring. Anzalone wasn't obviously at the OTAs doing things, but he was at minicamp, and he did sort of dabble in a bunch of different. And Anzalone, I think we all learned last year, he can, in fact, cover when he's healthy. Look very good in coverage. He also can blitz very well, and he finishes when he starts on blitzes very well. That's something that Jack Campbell's working on. So there's a lot to like there. But that's, I'm pretty bullish on Jack Campbell in the second year. Somebody wrote, and I forget who it was, and I wish I could give them credit for it because it was a good piece. They talked about how Jack Campbell is sort of the forgotten guy amongst all the rookies last year. It's true.
Yeah.
And I think he has a good opportunity to remind us that he was, in fact, first-round pick, and will play like it more in the second year.
Absolutely.
He was in a tough spot last year because, again, he coming in, Anzalone's healthy, balls out, deserved the Pro Bowl berth. Derek Barnes stepped up, got a lot better at what he did. Rodrigo, very, very good at what Rodrigo does well. And what he does well is sort of what Jack Campbell kind of does well, too. So there wasn't...
Rodrigo's first year, people think about that. You have to think about it. He was pressed into action, right?
Yes, he was.
And it was, everybody loved him. He had the personality, but he was pushed into a place, and he, for the most part, he absolutely stood up. He did an outstanding job when called to play the role, right? But it's not as natural, and the skill gap is it exists. Jack Campbell's a guy who came in last year and played very well. This year, I expect a kind of a little bit of an explosion from him, and that next step. You know what I mean? And I'm really, really excited. But you're right, Rodrigo. We forgot about him. He went from everybody's dancing in cowboy hats and green screaming him, right? from
Yeah.
Hard Knocks to we didn't see him. What's going on? I forgot about Rodrigo, right? But it'll be interesting, the mix, and he's a hell of a depth piece too. I mean, to have a guy like that in kind of in the halls is huge.
Yeah, Rodrigo might be the best number 4 linebacker in the football this year.
Yeah,
and that's no knock on him. Like he can play if he needs to, but if they don't need him to, because he does have some limitations with his athleticism. He's just not that great in coverage. He doesn't have that kind of range. Between the tackles, he's amazing.
Yep.
But I think you're going to see Jack Campbell. One of the things that I hope we see less of with Jack Campbell this year is he gets caught flat-footed a lot. And I think that's something that they've worked with him quite a bit on. Not beginning plays with his heels on the ground. That might have been screamed at him a few times, maybe.
Do you think that this is probably not even a valuable conversation to have, but do you think that Quinn would have skipped on Campbell? Like he would have just whiffed on the one guy that could have done what he wanted him to do?
I don't know. I don't want to get into the discussion about Jelani Tavai again because I like Jelani Tavai. And by the way, Jelani Tavai has played decently in New England in that system.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Don't dislike the guy. Just like him on the Lions.
Yes, exactly. Yes, thank you. That's a great way to put it. They drafted him about 2 or 3 rounds too early. I don't think that the Lions drafted Jack Campbell too early. I think that he's going to be a very valuable member of this defense for a long time, and he gives them some flexibility because he's versatile, and because Anzalone is pretty versatile, and because Derek Barnes is versatile in a different fashion, and because they do have depth in Germ and Rodrigo. That's a great starting 5. That's a great 5-man linebacker group right there. Like that gives them some freedom to, maybe go a little bit lighter and not have to carry a 6th or a 7th. And the fact that those guys, Rodrigo and Germ, are fantastic on special teams, that helps too. Yeah. That's to tie into the offensive line video I shot. If they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen, and I do think they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen, sacrifices have to be made somewhere. Maybe only keeping 5 linebackers because all 5 of them are pretty damn good. That's a nice little solution that's built in for to flex it around a little bit. Yeah. Keep somebody on the practice squad. We're good. They got rid of Steel Chambers, best name in football.
Yeah,
couldn't play. By the way, he's in New England now too,
and could do porn. All right, let's move on to the next guy. I don't know, just by name alone. I don't know about the rest of it. Sorry, I didn't want to take too much to.
All
right, I'll make an assumption. You don't get a name. Never mind. All right. So the next player we want to talk about changing roles is Jamo, a young man named Jameson Williams. You may have heard of him before. Changing role. Is his role going to be no longer being overthrown by Jared Goff?
Let's hope so.
Poke him in the eye.
Let's hope so. Let's hope he is more often where he needs to be when he needs to be there, because that's something that he definitely needed to work on. And I saw a lot better of that in the spring. I know if you ask anybody who was at the practices, they will tell you that he's gotten much more precise, much more conscientious about the timing of his routes, not necessarily, he's learned not to worry as much about the defensive back and just go to the spot where you're going to be and the ball will get there. He still needs work on catching the ball. He's just not, and Dan Campbell said this, he's not a natural hands catcher of the ball. You can work with that. He has gotten better. There's still, I've said this before, I'll say it again. He's going to be a guy, he's going to have some drops. That's never going to go away. That's just who he is. But he offers you enough. And from what we saw this spring, where he's running more crossers, running more posts, getting some quick slants, getting some bubble screen looks even. They ran a tunnel screen to him. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I'll let it out of the bag anyways, because I'm sure it's out there anyways. There are more ways to get him the ball in the role he's in now than there were last year. And he is appearing to be deserving of those extra looks. And I'm very excited about getting him the ball. Let's call it on a tunnel screen. And Sam Laporta kicks out. and your running backs fleeing around the outside, so the linebacker gets pulled, and Jamo just takes off the other way, and there ain't anybody on the defense that can get you. Like, the Lions have some pretty fast defensive backs. Nobody's running with Jamo.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Let's see.
I like that.
Really quick, Goff in the pocket has the highest adjusted passer rating in the league. He's amongst the best in response to the blitz. Also, he is number 1 ranked, having his name chanted in opposing teams' facilities, all sports combined. So that's a pretty good deal right there too. So that just talks to what he's got. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, yeah, that was it. Sorry. Jamo and Goff going to bring this year's Jamo to surpass St. Brown. That's a tall order.
That's asking a lot.
That's a tall order. I hope so. And I hope, because let's face it, St. Brown got his money. And if he can kind of now work on being crafty and amazing and not have to do it every single play and risk injury, I love it. Right? I love that. The more you can spread that ball around and have top talented receivers doing great things, I love it. So that's a lot, though. It is a lot. It is a lot to ask. There was an ask here really quick, Riz. I want to get this because it came from Don Burr. Do you think we make any more notable signings, i.e. Simmons, Diggs, anybody like that? I have an answer for that, but I don't either. And I think we don't, because I think part of the culture of this team is, unless a 4th-year Peyton Manning drops into your lap, you've put in with these guys, and now it's about team, right? It really is. So unless you have a massive, undeniable talent that's going to drop in, this is now about the grit, the work, proving yourself, and not somebody kind of being parachuted in from outside. It's people here earning the position. And unless there's an absolute fail going on at a position, I wouldn't expect anybody to be coming in from the outside at this point. That's just my head on this.
Yeah. Certainly not at the beginning of camp or before camp. Nobody wants to sign right now anyways. But unless there's safety room. I have a lot of concerns about the safety room. If things don't go as optimally as hoped for guys like Brandon Joseph and Iffy, and I do think we're going to see a lot more of Brian Branch playing with Kirby Joseph as the base safeties, and you're going to see a actual cornerback playing more of the slot role than like Branch did it last year. He was great at it. But I think they're finding more ways. Like last year, teams were like, "Oh, we can get Branch off the field if we, put a tight end in and put 2 tight ends in, and he leaves the field." And it's not going to happen this year. He's going to be on the field a lot more, and that's going to come at the expense of someone. It could be Iffy. It could be Kirby Joseph. They're both named Joseph back there, Kirby and Brandon. Behind that, they don't really have much of anything. They have a couple of undrafted free agents. Jalen Garnes, probably the better of them. Like I would love to see Quandre Diggs come back as a conquering hero and get vindicated, but I just don't think that's in the cards right now. I love Quandre Diggs. He's one of my favorite players, going back to his days at Texas. Great guy, great human being, was a pretty darn good football player for a long time too. I'm a little concerned that those days might be past. Justin Simmons, this is interesting because every single fan base is like, why don't we go get Justin Simmons? If we're all thinking that, all 32 media throngs and fan bases, might be something on Justin Simmons' end why he's not signed yet, rather than any want from any team. I don't know that, but just putting my thinking cap on, like, that guy's has been a very good football player and held his head high in the face of a truly awful situation last year. Yep. Didn't talk any crap about the Broncos, even though he very well could have. There's something going on there. Again, I have no clue what it is, but there's a reason why he's not unsigned, and it's probably him.
There you go. All right. Did we talk about changing? I was managing the chat. Did we get through enough of JMO's changing role on the?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I think fans need to give him an open-minded chance to prove himself, and I know that's going to be tough for a lot of people who've already written him off. I also see people out there, and we saw a little bit in the chat there, people writing checks that he probably can't cash.
Yeah.
But somewhere in between the wrong and right, that's where we find him.
All right, let's go to Mr. Raymond, the little guy who plays like he's got 6-inch elevator cleats on. K-Leaf is out there. Let's talk about how his role's changing on the Detroit Lions in 2024.
He's going to play a lot more of the Josh Reynolds role that you saw last year, because Jamo can't do that. They're very different types of receivers.
Yep.
Now, Leaf is different than that too, but Leaf can do more of those, a dig route, an out route. He can start in the slot and flex to the outside. He can move around. He can go in motion across. That's not something necessarily that Jamo does that much of yet. You might see more of that, but Leaf is sort of the guy who's going to be the moving piece, and he's going to assume that Josh Reynolds' target range role. Now, DPJ is going to take some of that too. I do think that DPJ is going to play some, especially with his size. He looks like he's inflated himself, man, upper body. It's ridiculous. But Leaf has earned Jared Goff's trust over the time.
Yeah.
He's earned Ben Johnson's trust. He's earned
my trust.
he's earned Antoine Randall L's trust quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's I think so. I'm not a fantasy football guy, but if I'm making my last pick in a draft and it's like a 12-team league and Leaf is still there, I'm taking him.
You'll get that chance this year, Riz. You'll get that chance. Detroit Lions podcast, fantasy football kicking off middle of the month. That, and of course, the podcast training camp party. Sorry, I got to get these in one more time. Training camp party, August 3rd, Saturday night, just after the end of training camp, ahead of the practice with the New York Giants. Well, we will have the breakdown for you live at the Uptown Grill. Tickets go on sale this weekend at DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Get them and get in and get fun and have some fun. Get in, get there, have some fun. It's a riot every single year.
There will be. So, and we won't be super tired either because there's not practice that day.
Right.
Kind of nice.
Right. Our burns will have subsided a little bit. The blisters will have gone down.
So.
Oh, man.
Sure hope so. It's a good time, man. They Uptown Grill, they take such good care of us. They've done it for years now. This will be what, year 8 there, maybe?
Yeah.
8 or 9?
8, yeah.
They're 8. They do a great job. Nothing but kudos to them.
Love them.
I mean, that place, but so neither of us live in that area. But that's a place that I would go to, like if I lived in the area to I'm looking for something to do on a Friday or Saturday night. They had a honky tonk band there one year. They had a band last year. They had a woman who kicked ass doing like classic rock songs.
Yeah.
She sang Crazy Train. And while I was in the bathroom and I could hear it, and I'm like, yeah. Like this.
Nick the Greek. Matt, Patricia's ample bosoms. Thank you, Nick, so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that, man. You are a rock star. Love you, brother. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on. Ja Gibbs. Ja. Little Bob Marley going on. His roles are changing.
It's legal.
Times they are changing, my friend. What are we going to see from Ja Gibbs that's different this year?
I think you're going to see him get more looks where he's like isolated in space. He is capable of running wide receiver-esque routes, and they didn't necessarily use a lot of that in his rookie year. And again, from what we saw in the spring, now he was injured and not clear to play yet, so he's just sort of in walkthrough status. But even in that, like you kind of see him like, oh, okay, all right. The other thing is that now they're more comfortable with what David Montgomery can do, and David Montgomery's a beast. the interplay between So I'll go back in time a little bit to when I covered the Cleveland Browns, and they had both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the same backfield, and I begged the football gods, put them on the field together, please. Because they both can do it all too. It's kind of a similar combo. Jameer's much more explosive than Kareem Hunt is, but the concept of having two backs that can do it all, but like also have enough differentiation. For the love of God, play them together, Ben. Put them back there.
Yeah.
Make the defenses shit. They're not. Oh my God. What do my linebackers do? Which linebacker's taking Montgomery? Which linebacker's taking Gibbs? We got to drop a safety. We got to bring a safety up into the box now because we don't know what's going to happen with the receivers out. It takes care of some of our wide receiver depth issues. If you're a Lions fan that doesn't like Donovan Peoples-Jones as your number 4 wide receiver, maybe they won't play him. Maybe they'll play more of Gibbs and Montgomery together. So that is the one thing. Ben Johnson, if you're watching this podcast, first, hi, thank you. Secondly, play them together.
And speaking of playing together, do you know what's going to happen at the party this year, Riz? We got this chat here with Jahmyr Gibbs will play the Joker role this year, incoming Joker Gibbs. If you don't know what I'm alluding to, Jeff Risdon will be tortured by
oh hell no
Steve Miller Band live in front of everybody at the training camp party. We will have the crew, everyone singing Abracadabra at the top of our lungs to help along. We'll have a little sing along, and we'll make sure Riz pays for his delayed gratification live at the Detroit Lions party. Detroit Lions podcast training camp party. Good time. Tickets on sale Saturday. Okay, I'll stop with the party. Good times, Riz. Notice I waited till you agreed to come before
I read the books. Oh, damn it.
Oh man. Okay, let's go. Here we are. Charity, the gift that keeps on giving. It's like the Jelly of the Month Club when it comes to Riz. All right, let's get to the next one.
I had legitimately forgotten about that. Damn it.
Brian Branch. He was so good in the slot. What's going on with Brian Branch?
We talked about him a little bit earlier. Some of this is the fact that they actually have other guys that can play in the slot now. And this Rakestraw, probably going to be a slot corner in Detroit for at least the first couple of years. As long as Carlton Davis and Terry and Arnold are outside, he kind of needs to play inside if he wants to play. Yeah. Amik Robertson, who I will parenthetically add, was rotten in the slot in Las Vegas. He was not good there. Saw a lot of them in there in the spring. They're trying. I don't know if it's going to stick or not, but he played some slot. And there's sort of a chicken versus egg conversation there is, did he look okay in the slot because their slot depth is bad? Or was he good enough that it made them look bad? And I don't know the answer to that. If you ask me on 5 different days, I give you 5 different answers. And we'll find that out more as time goes on. But it's hard for me to accept the fact that he would get run in there, but they do seem to be given an honest look, like, okay. And the reason is because they want Brian Branch's playmaking deeper on the field because their safeties are not the strength of the team. And they can be a bigger strength if Brian Branch is playing back there a lot more, whether it's in space of Kirby Joseph, who's really good against the pass, and if he has Maliefanu, who's really good against the pass as a pass rusher, and shallow area, keep it in front of him, things. And great against the run. Was phenomenal in the last 6, 7, 8 games. Like, he was really, really good in that. And I think they're going to sort of have some interplay with that. But you're going to see Brian Branch doing, he played the star role at Alabama, which is sort of like a robber role, almost hybrid linebacker safety slot. Jabril Peppers did it at Michigan. For those of you who are Wolverines fans, I think Branch is better than Peppers, and Peppers has turned out to be a pretty damn good pro. He's got a real shot to be a Pro Bowler this year, and in that sort of like, give him enough latitude that he can make some plays. The outside cornerbacks will be better. That gives him a little bit more freedom to maybe take a gamble or two, which, by the way, I also think makes Kirby Joseph better. I'm excited about Brian Branch. I'm very excited about Brian Branch.
This is one of those things where it's that time of year where all hope springs eternal. And you look what the Lions have done. And I mean, think about it. The Lions in years past, hope was just a playoff game. Just make the playoffs. Hope now is 2 games, right? It was 1 game. It's a Super Bowl, right? And then it's winning the Super Bowl. It's like two potential outcomes here. That's hope. And then maybe after that, a second Super Bowl. Like you'd have a whole lot of like.
Let's get the one first.
I know, but I'm telling you, your hope list is much shorter now as a Lions fan. And now so many things that used to be hopes are kind of expectations. And folks are setting themselves up, I think, potentially for a couple injuries, anything can go. And I don't want to get off the Kool-Aid, right? Because I love that. But man, as good as this team is, as we sit here and talk about moving Branch and Terrion and Rakestraw, we'll talk about them shortly here. What this secondary looks like, which was arguably a anchor around the team's neck last year, has suddenly, I mean, we have to see him. We have to see what camp looks like. We have to see what preseason looks like. But suddenly, this secondary looks to become potentially one of the big strengths of this team. And man, that is an absolute difference maker in how many games, dude. How many games last year? It's
San Francisco is a good example. Just think about it this way.
Yeah. We cried together that day.
Yes, yes, we did. Most defensive coordinators were defensive players, and their specialty is the position that they played. What did Aaron Glenn play in the NFL? He was an undersized outside corner in a Bill Parcells defense. So what do you think he wants? Corners that can cover with dog in them, because that's what he was. He just might have that now.
Sorry, I got a name. I got a name for the secondary. Everyone loves like Legion of
the nicknames.
All that. Yeah.
Legion of Boom.
I don't know. This is just me riffing right now, but it hit me, and I really like it. Talk about the guys with dog in them. They're the Wolf Pack, brother. They're the Wolf Pack. I like that. Oh. All right, last one. Changing player roles. Let's go to James Houston. Let's get into James Houston and how he's
a very good question. He's a very good question because they tried to change it a little bit last year and it flat out did not work, and that's kind of a problem. So I don't know what. It's very difficult for me to reconcile the James Houston that we saw at the end of 2022 and the guy who played his way off the first and the second team defense last summer. And he did. Like, they tried more of using him as an all-around linebacker, and it just didn't work. Like, some of it was him, some of it was the defensive assignment that he was given. I'm very curious what happens with him, because as a pass rush specialist, dude was the flamethrower, and it's great. And I will say this, he looks a little bit bulkier than he did last summer. And I think last year, I'm not sure that he prepared well enough to come into camp and do what they wanted him to do. And while he's been hurt this offseason, he's only been doing walkthrough status for the most part. He seems more aware of what the Lions view him as. And I think that that's going to help him a lot. Now he's got a little bit of competition in that Matthew Betts is basically the same role, a guy that you probably don't want to play other than when the other team is going, with 3 or 4 wideouts. There's not a great deal of a threat from the run or from getting wham blocked by the tight end or something like that, because that's just not something that they do. Either of them do well. There's an opportunity though for James Houston to step in and say, hey, that role opposite Hutch is mine. And he's got the talent to do it. Can he consistently show that? And can he offer anything else at all? Because again, last year they tried so hard last summer to get him to be more of a full-time linebacker. And every single day it got worse, not better. And that's not just me saying that. You can ask Justin Rogers that. You can ask Dave Burkett that. You can ask Tim Twentyman that. And they will all tell you the same thing. He played his way down last summer. That's why he was on special teams. That's why he got hurt on special teams.
Yep.
Why everybody was angry. This team rewards players that devote themselves to the team. And I don't think that they perceive that James Houston did it that as well. Now, James Houston might say otherwise, but I think he has a better understanding this year of what that means as a Detroit Lion, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And it's about him. It's so Dr. Liao has talked about the injury, right? And I haven't seen what he looks like yet. We've talked a little bit about it, but I haven't seen it. And this is one of those things.
He's still, by the way, he's not fully cleared yet. He was still working with trainers on the side, like Gibbs did. He actually did more than Gibbs did, but he did like walkthrough stuff. But anytime that there was any even just like token, I'm blocking you now. Like he wasn't on the field, so that we don't have a good feel for that yet. But,
so beyond that,
Mitchell Agude is coming after his job too. That might turn up the pressure for him, and we'll see how he responds to that. He might be the kind of dog that's like, okay, that guy's trying to take my job. I'm going to make sure that he doesn't take it. Or is he a guy that's going to be like, oh man, they brought another guy.
Houston isn't that guy. And that's it.
I don't think he's that at all either.
I think Houston is a hungry dude who he exemplifies that kind of the Detroit grit that they talk about, right? That the team embodies. Absolutely. And that injury really, really messed him up. I think that's going to be the limiting factor, but it is also on him. And that's what is so much about how hard are you working when you come back? Your body can only heal so much, but you can help it heal. And we've seen a lot of players who've done their body favors by doing the right things to heal and get better. And I think that kind of mindset and that kind of attitude, I think James Houston has it. I believe that's who he is. I believe, but we'll find that out this year. And if so, I would be really nervous, to be frank, if he really embodies that, which I think he will. He's going to live, breathe, and spit fire. And people are going to be afraid of Hutchinson, and they're going to double on Hutchinson and all that. But they're going to have a real force to contend with on the other side if James Houston comes back in that mindset. And I love the idea of what he could be.
That role, the Aquaras are gone. Charles Harris is gone. Yep. That role is wide freaking open for him to take and jump into. And he does have the ability to do it. We just need to see him do it. And more to the point, the Lions need to see him do it on a day-in, day-out basis. And if he does that, there's going to be a lot of fans who are going to be very happy with him.
Yeah, 100%.
Very happy.
100%. All right, so that's a look at the Detroit Lions players. I don't want to say of old because we started with Jack Campbell, but the vets, the boys and the men who have been around for a while, right? How their roles may change, how things are changing based on new rookies rolling in and that sort of thing. So you got that. Well, let's talk about those rookies. Let's dive in a little bit on the rookies and see how they're changing this team around and what's going to be, what's the focus and what's their roles in this changing face of the Detroit Lions. So let's go first with you guys may have heard of him. I mean, if you have, you're a pretty big Lions fan. I'll just tell you that because most people don't know the name. Terrion Arnold. He was a cornerback at Alabama. For those who aren't aware, the Lions did take him in the draft this year. I'm not sure if you knew that. So Terrion Arnold, under the radar,
Sub-Zero.
kind of a no-name, Sub-Zero kind of guy. Do you think he can make an impact? Do you think he plays? Let's start there. Do you think he plays this year, Jeff?
Yes.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so he's going to play, but okay, well, do you think he's going to make an impact if he plays?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. Huh. Tell me more about this. Why do you think this Terrion Arnold guy is going to see the field and make an impact?
I think he has a very, very, very good chance to be the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Year.
What? But nobody's heard of him. Sorry, I can't track that any further. It's going nowhere. Yeah, he's a top shelf talent. He's a top shelf talent.
He's so good, and his fit for what Aaron Glenn wants his primary outside corner to do. It's like. So I was in Orlando recently.
I got to start with something. I'm sorry. Oh, go tell your Orlando story. Okay. Go ahead.
We went to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and like you see like how incredibly detailed it is because they like take the castings and everything. And it's like Aaron Glenn has cast himself as a player, and it turned out as Terrion Arnold. And if you don't remember Aaron Glenn as a player, go back and watch some of him with the Jets and with the Texans. Like he was damn good, man. He is exactly what Lions fans want their outside corners to be. And oh, by the way, he did it. So he knows what he wants. I think he sees a lot of himself in Terrion Arnold.
I want to say how he's a fit, and this in a little bit different way.
Good. He's so good.
Everyone, this is about the right guy at the right time. CJGJ, when he showed up, brought the swag, and he fired up a group of guys who weren't really. Before he got there, they were a different mindset and a different personality. And he showed up and he brought the dog and put the dog in a lot of those guys who were just kind of woofing on the porch, right?
Kirby Joseph especially.
Yeah. But as we've talked about, over time that starts to wear because it just doesn't turn off, right? It's now you're sitting next to a megaphone that's just screaming in your ear constantly, and it's not that great. I want to talk. Terrion brings a swag that fits. It's the confidence, it's the swagger, it's classy but still biting. But you know what I'm trying to find the right adjectives for it.
Yeah,
that's the fit. He brings that he embodies that spirit that the secondary needed when CJGJ showed up. He models that kind of swagger and that behavior and that mentality of a secondary that you want, that Coach wants. My brain's working slow there.
There's some self-aware humility to him that CJGJ did not have.
Yeah, he's not going to show up with a blue ski mask and then choke everything. Just go out hurt because he went too hard and got a penalty and hurt himself. Like it's like all that just is gonna. He's not going to do that. He's not going to get over the edge of his skis, right? To use an old saying, he's not going to overdo it. He's just that right level of confidence. It's just the fit. It's just the right fit.
Yeah,
the way he swags.
It's very easy to see him fitting in with the defense too, and that was honestly one of the coolest things about being there this spring was watching him sort of work his way in. Like he didn't come in taking anything for granted. And he's a guy who's, if Carlton Davis wants to talk to him and give him tips, he's going to listen.
Yep.
You know, if Aaron Glenn wants to give him tips, he's going to listen. If Brian Branch sees something like hey, they used to play together in Alabama, like they know how to interact a little bit, and I think that's really important. And I don't think, for as much as I really liked the CJGJ signing at the time, and I do think that there was some definite benefit to him because you're right, Chris. He did change the mindset of the defense for the better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But the fact that he couldn't back it up on the field so much, even before he got hurt, sort of took away from that a little bit. And I'm glad that he was here, but I'm also glad that he's gone. But I'm very, very glad that Terrion Arnold is here. He was to sort of take that kind of thing.
It's kind of like I talked about the 2022 team. As the team, remember the end of the year with that win in Lambeau,
Green Bay.
Yep, shut down Aaron Rodgers, and it was like the torch has been passed, right? It was a change, and I wanted people remember that 2022 team. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were the foundation that changed this team. CJGJ is very much the right person at the right point in time that brought the right thing and helped the journey of the secondary, helped accelerate the journey of the secondary to where now you had a guy like Terrion and the way he plays. He doesn't have to pull everybody up, right? They're going to come to him already because they've got that baseline. And I think that attitude and that approach is everything for a secondary because it is such a goldfish memory, play hard, never lose confidence kind of thing. The second, it's almost as touchy as a kicker. When a kicker loses confidence, it's you can just watch him melt down and it's over. It's similar for cornerbacks and safeties, right? When they all of a sudden lose that confidence, they're behind a step. They're overthinking. You see it so many times. And then they get burnt. Yeah. And so I think as much as he was frustrating, and sometimes I think CJGJ was the right guy at the right time and brought and contributed to what we have here this year, starting this year. And now the torch is kind of moving to Terrion with this new kind of approach that I think is a better fit for a team, but these guys are all primed for that.
CJGJ also deserves some credit for Iffy's progress and development and improved mindset because I know CJGJ got in him hard, and for whatever reason, that hadn't registered with Iffy, with the coaches doing that and other people. For whatever reason, it did with him. And we are all better for that because Iffy was a guy that we weren't sure was going to make the team last year. And now he has proven he can start in this league and be an asset in this league. And I don't know if that happens without CJGJ coming in and being in his ear and in his face a little bit.
Yep.
Again, right place, right time. Now is not the right time for that particular guy, though. That time has come and gone, and
right.
I wish him well. I hope he does well in Philadelphia. I have a lot of weird concerns about that team. I think they peaked early last year, and I'm not sure they can ever get back to that.
I hope not.
I
see too many people from Philadelphia and too many Philadelphia fans. You don't understand, especially at work, right? It's just so fun to be able to walk in and say, oh, yeah.
You better back the fuck up out my face, goddammit. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Don't play with me.
I mean it, though. I love it. I love saying that. I knew I could sneak that in somewhere. But that's it. And to be able to do that with confidence as a Lions fan, finally, to be able to say that. I remember in 2008, I was in California, and I was surrounded by Bears fans. This is when I actually first started conversing with Jim Brandstatter. Moved to California, surrounded by Bears fans and Packers fans, other meatheads, no Lions fans anywhere. It wound up being one of the kind of impetuses for this show to get kicked off and started and stuff. But it was absolute misery. And then they went over, and it was like even worse because then you're just the laughing stock, the Cowboys fans. Like, I mean, just over and over getting just made. It was horrible. But now to be able to walk in and act like that guy, it's just invigorating. It is so invigorating. All right, we got Terrion Arnold. You've heard of him, but nobody's heard of this next guy. Ennis Rakestraw. Yeah, y'all heard of him too. Ennis Rakestraw, potential slot corner, taking
that's where
Brian Branch's position away. Where will Brian fit? Will he be able to play in the NFL again? Sorry, we already talked about him.
Chris, I think we talked about that.
Yeah. it's
Rakestraw. Rakestraw is a wild card because he's still not fully cleared, but in walkthroughs he did play some outside. He played some outside with the second team, and I think that back. He is cleared. He was on a pitch count. He was free to do what he did, but they took him out after drills because there was one specific drill on the last day of minicamp where he played second team outside corner. And I don't remember, it might have been Jalen Calhoun, it might have been Antoine Green, but he just like bullied them like out of bounds with his jam. They could not get off of him. And that was nice. That was really nice. Yeah. But how can I say this without getting?
You can say anything on this show. That's the beauty.
I think they see him as a rookie, as the utility backup, the Will Harris role, if you will. By the way, he's gone. He's gone.
I'm not dancing on his grave. Will is a great guy. It's just
he is a great guy, and again, I wish him well. But I'm glad he's not on this football team anymore. I'm glad they've progressed beyond that. And I know last year was special because it was actually cheaper to keep him than to cut him, and he knew like he could be your number 5 corner and number 4 safety, and you'd only had to pay for one. Like I understood all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ennis Rakestraw is a guy that this year will be the number 4 outside corner, maybe number 5 outside corner, and maybe the number 2 slot corner, depending on what they do with Amik, and we'll see about that. And I think that's a good spot for him to be in as he recovers from sports hernia surgery and learns how to get with his body right again. This is a guy. Remember, this guy who had a knee problem too. He's one of my knocks on him before the draft was I'm worried that he can't stay healthy. To his credit, he has bulked up. He posted a thing, I believe it was on his Instagram story recently, where he was at like 189. I want to say it was 189. Somebody in the comments probably saw it and has a better idea of it than that. But at the draft, he was about 180. And when you're 5'11 and change and 180, that's a tough size because you're a little bit too big to be in the slot and you're not big enough or long enough to be outside. But if you've added that bulk on, you can play outside a little bit better, and your jam's going to be that much more effective. So I like that. I don't expect him to start as a rookie. I think he's more of a long-term investment. But and just to go back to the draft thing, I absolutely did not want him at 29. Not a chance in the world. Give me Ennis Raestraw at 60. Hell yeah, let's do it. Let's bring it, because he's a very good stylistic fit and mentality fit for this defense. He and Terrion have sort of the yin and yang. Yin and yang? Yin yang? I don't know.
Yin and yang.
Yes, thank you. That's it. Yes. Tai and Chi.
It's the balance. It's the balance.
Yes, the harmonious balance. Terrion's a guy who's going to let you know that he's covering you. And Ennis is going to be the guy that's like, after he tackles you, he might spit on his hand first, but then he'll help you up. That's just sort of who he is. Very, very quiet, very he thinks a lot before he talks. And I don't mean that as a negative. I think it's an admirable quality. I wish I had more of that in myself. But
I would definitely be more eloquent if that was the case.
I think
I'm always smarter the third time I phrase something. Like that's where writing.
Absolutely.
Like, that's why I don't do any writing, because I get so trapped in rewriting that it's like, forget it. I can't do all that.
Well, you can't do any worse than the AI bots that rip off what I write and try to pass off as their own.
Oh yeah, you can.
Quit clicking on those things, people.
At least click on the Lions Wire ads.
On the original.
Click on the ads on Lions Wire, please. All right, let's see. Sione Vaki. Let's move on.
I like Sione Vaki.
He's our backup safety.
Vaki.
Never see him carrying a ball unless he intercepts it. What do we got going on at Sione Vaki?
I'm just happy that the person who told me right after we were in Mobile that they saw him as a running back and not a safety, I'm very happy that person was validated, because that's a person who's given me some weird information in the past. I wasn't sure, but thanks to you. You know who you are, and I know you watch this show too. So thank you for that. You were right. They do see him as a running back, and he and Craig Reynolds are going to be in a battle for that number 3 spot. And to go back to the offense, if they're keeping 10 offensive linemen, they might only keep 3 running backs. And I don't know how that's going to play out, because I love Craig Reynolds, but I also like Sione Vaki. And Vaki offers a dimension where, as an actual runner, he's kind of limited. They schemed a lot for him at Utah to get him openings that you just don't get in the NFL. But watching him catch the ball out of the backfield and run some routes, there's some room for that in this offense.
Yeah.
Give me a wheel route to Sione Vaki, isolated on a slowish linebacker. I'm Jelani Tavai. We don't play the Patriots this year, but that'd be nice.
Just quick piece of chat here. Damn you, Risen! How dare you come in my wife's ears? Sorry, Kool-Aid Kid. We both did. All right. Good point from Ken Button. Ken Button, click on the like button. Please like and subscribe. Oh, you folks, we only ask once per show, and actually haven't asked in a couple of months, so might as well squeeze it in there right now. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Help us out when you do that. Help other people find us, especially in these slow days, the dog days of summer, as football tends to wind on down.
Oh, I get the best promotional emails. That one was offering me a breast pump. breastfeeding
Nice.
pump thing. I don't know why these people think that I would be interested in interviewing the manufacturer of a new style of breast pump.
Well,
The
maybe
fun
it's
part about being in the
multi-use.
media is that you get all these weird emails
Shouldn't have signed
asking
the
you to
thing.
interview people.
Shouldn't have signed the thing at
Probably
Adult
not.
World there, Riz. All right, let's Sione Vaki changing things up. What do you think with Sione and Craig? What do you think's going to happen there right now? I mean, I know you and Craig are close heart to heart guys like I was with Jerry.
Yep.
What do you got
here? I like to think that there's room for both of them because I think Vaki is going to be our kick returner. And that might be enough in and of itself to keep him on there. And special teams. He will be on kick coverage and punt coverage. He might be the punt protector. And you can see him. Oh, we've got a running back as our punt protector. Maybe, just maybe,
Mr. Fakey
Hogan
Bake
Hatton, who the undrafted free agent who will make the team as your long snapper, gives him the snap. Back he goes. A lot of space in front of him.
Well, he's got hands too, right?
I'm excited. Yes, he can catch very well.
So he's kind of a dual threat on the fake. That the problem is Dan Campbell is not known for punt fakes. So, you're never going to see that happen.
I don't know if he throws as well as Jack Fox. So they did do a drill that tested the throwing capabilities of various skill position players. Vaki, I'll tell you, Leaf can throw the ball nicely. Antoine Green can really throw the ball well.
Really?
James Mitchell, not so much. Sam Laporta, not so much. Who was the Tom Kennedy can throw.
Yeah,
we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen that. He proved that he still got that too. Maurice Alexander was the other one that you probably shouldn't ever ask him to throw a ball.
I mean, you see a lot of those kind of running across the back of the formation kind of a thing, right? Get the ball, bust out like basically a bootleg and throw it to Amon-Ra. I mean, or to Jamo. I mean, there's so many things you can do. It's just
so many things you can do with it. Throw it to Goff. Throw it to Taylor Decker leaking out the backside.
Throw it to Panay.
Properly. Panay's
the leaping.
Manu has hands. Manu can catch. Maybe he sees some time.
Manu, Fuku, he does. Oh, yeah. That's good to know. Oh, man.
He learned how to catch by being a post player in basketball. He knows how to be a red zone target. Just throwing that out there. Might be the only way you see him this year, but throwing that out there.
All right, let's get to Mr. Wingo, defensive tackle out of LSU. You think we're going to see him rocking the Honolulu Blues this year? Rumor has it.
I think he's making the team. He's an odd one because he's ostensibly the same player that they have wanted Kaminsky and wanted Pascal to be. And you also have to throw in the fact that Levi Onwuzurike looks great and also plays that exact same role.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys aren't making the team. There's just not enough space in the 53. So are they going to protect their rookie investment and maybe move on from someone else?
This is Levi's last year as a rook, right? On the rookie deal?
It's also Kaminsky's last year on his deal. Pascal has one more year after this year. Keep that in mind as summer plays out. Because they are all basically the same. I don't want to call them the same type of player, but they all play the same role in this defense. And there's Matthew Betts, by the way, can do a little bit of that. Chris Smith can do a little of that. Let me look at my handy dandy roster here because they got a lot of guys that are in that boat there, and I don't want to omit any of them. Kyle Pico, he's more of a nose, so he doesn't really fit in that. DJ Reader, he's Broderick Martin. We didn't have him on the schedule, but this is another guy. If DJ Reader is your nose tackle, and Kyle Pico makes the team. I'm not sold that Kyle Pico is going to make the team, even with his veteran status, his connection with Terrell Williams from their Tennessee days together. Probably only room for one backup there. Like, there's going to be a roster crunch, and somebody that we don't want to necessarily get rid of has to go. I don't think it's going to be Mekhi Wingo, because I think his ability to pass rush over either shoulder of the center or guards makes him a little bit more valuable than some other guys who can only really attack guards and probably get washed out against tackles. And we did see a little bit of Mekhi lined up wide. I'd see more of that. So I think he's probably a guy that makes the team but is a game day inactive early on. And then if everybody's healthy, and then from there progresses and they see what they've got. But that defensive line, they're going to cut at least one player of the names that I just listed, that maybe even two of them, that people are going to raise some eyebrows about, because they're probably going to get claimed by another team. And we're cutting guys off of a defense that was, 22nd last year, I think, in scoring defense, 23rd maybe. And we're going to be cutting guys off that, and they're going to be considered losses. It's going to be, the reaction to that's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be coming in about 2 months from today. So we'll see what happens with that. Do you have any thoughts on like where they would go with that, what they would keep with that? Because I'm in a status of, I'm going to wait and see on this, but one of Levi and Kaminsky and Pascal, one of them, there just isn't room for them on this roster. Somebody's got to go. I don't think it'll be Wingo.
No, because that's a growth prospect, right?
Right.
So
right.
I feel like
I don't think it'll be Pascal either.
No. I feel like
Pascal's
it's
healthy.
Levi or Kaminsky, right? Those are your two opportunities. Yeah. Levi is a guy who I think you might be able to get him on a better deal than Kaminsky after this year. If you lose Kaminsky this year, I think the money goes away right away, right? So for next year, you're clean slating it, right? Same thing with Levi, but I think a lot of it's going to be, what does Levi do in camp? I think it's really up to Levi to Levi's performance. Let me put it that way, as to whether he's the one or not. I was talking to Dr. Liao about it. I was like, this is unprecedented. Like, a guy with this kind of an injury, and like his comeback, he doesn't seem limited in motion. He doesn't seem like, he seemed like he didn't have the muscularity that he used to and that he needed to have last year. So he was a little bit, but he had flashes, right? And like, if this offseason, I almost think of it like a rookie offseason, like between your rookie and sophomore year, where now he's had this year of being healthy, and he's had that strength and conditioning opportunity. If he comes in and is all of a sudden the Levi Onwuzurike that Brad saw originally, I mean, it's a 4-year project, right? But holy cow. Like, Brad's
late to never, baby.
Brad's not afraid, right? And
he's not.
To build a guy and to carry a guy and to develop a guy, and he knows he's got the guys. It's all about Levi and where he is in training camp this year. I think that's really, really going to define it. And I think this is something that we can think about as we do, like when we do our show next week. Maybe we talk about a last look at what we think the roster looks like, and we'll just walk through positionally who we think is going to make it, and what this 53 looks like way too early, right? And I think it is way too early to have that kind of a conversation, but I think it might be a good kind of signpost on the road to the 53, if you will.
And there's a lot, like, so I'm doing one for Lions Wire, and there's a whole lot of like ifs and buts and if-then statements, because there's a lot that we don't know. That there are some battles that will be like legitimately deciding spots. And some of it is, do they keep full running backs? Do they keep 5-6 wide receivers? How many safeties do they? How many linebackers? And we don't know that. And I will guess, but I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what they're thinking on that. So that's. And by the way, I don't think they've decided that either.
They're not going to decide until right at cut time, right? I mean, these guys have all the way up until cut time to make themselves known and heard, right? So it's not.
And injuries happen, unfortunately. Like that's the shitty part of it, but it happens. Like I hate
it's
to
not
say
a
that, but
day one of camp decision, but you're going to have guys that are taking first team reps. You have guys that are taking second team reps, and we'll just start thinking about what we think. And even then, at the beginning of camp, a lot like day one isn't necessarily the first team is all taking first team reps. They're already starting to experiment with guys playing together, see what these different combos, what kind of fruit those trees bear. So,
especially in the secondary and at wide receiver, seeing who fits where with Jamo and Amon-Ra, basically.
Yeah.
Is it Antoine Green? Is it Khalif? Is it DPJ? Is it somebody else? It's gonna be fun to watch the bottom of the roster fights this year. Last year was fun too. Watching a guy like Trevor Nowaski come in as an undrafted free agent out of Saginaw Valley State and making it. And by the way, he's got a real shot to start for the Arizona Cardinals this year. The Arizona Cardinals, who we play this year, and who I ranked as the worst defense that the Lions will see. Check that out at Lions Wire. Plug there. I ranked the defenses that the Lions will face, and the Arizona Cardinals are last in that. And one of the reasons is because right now, if the season started today, they would be starting two guys who were undrafted free agents for the Detroit Lions last year. And Starling Thomas as one of their outside corners and Trevor Nowaski as their inside linebacker. Nothing against those. I like them both. I like Trevor a lot. But Trevor's gone up the depth chart 6 spots by changing teams. Like, that says a lot about the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, there's and who will be this summer's Trevor Nowaski? Could Brandon Joseph? I know it's not his rookie year, but could he be a guy that like really steps up? He's already taken with the guys being injured ahead of him, with Kirby being out. Hopefully Kirby's back for camp. He said he would be. We'll hold him to his word on that.
Guess who's back?
He showed some things. He showed some deficiencies as well, but he showed some things. Is it going to be? Is it Matthew Betts from the CFL? He's dude just knows how to get to the quarterback, man. I'm thoroughly impressed that a guy who looks like he does is as good as he is. It looks. I said he looks like a guy who's going to sell you. He looks like a realtor who's trying to get his first client. He's got that sort of hunger to him. Oof. You know what I mean? That kind of eagerness to him.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's the guy that's running next to me on an elliptical at Planet Fitness, not necessarily an NFL player. But damn, man, he can play.
Yeah, there you go.
So who's going to be that? That's the things we're going to talk about next week when we do a show. Because it looks like the worlds will align again, such that we can do another live show before training camp, which would be great.
That'll be fantastical. Yeah. Woo! All right, we've got that going. We got you covered off season. It's slow. We don't run away. We're here for you. We got you. All right. People obsessed with undrafted free agents and the bottom of the roster, but I guess there's nothing else to talk about. Also, Arthur Fonzarelli. So Fonzie, I think if you look at a sport where there's so much gambling and a culture that has so much gambling as part of it, and I think the UDFA kind of piece feeds into that. And the fact that every now and then some of those guys hit. By the way, it's just gamification. The world has been ruined by gamification, but it's just manipulation under another name. That's how they figured out clickbait. That's how it's just. Oh god, I could go on a rage rant about that, but it's not.
Please don't.
Not football. It's not football. But that's what it is. That's what it is. You love an underdog, and you want to cheer for an underdog, and you see a guy who's really working his heart out, and you love to see it. Jameer Jefferson was one of those guys. That day, I'll never forget. Him working the sled and that team cheering him on like I'd never seen before. Yes. I was like, wow, that was a group that was together, that was tight. And I mean, they were cheering for him. You love that, right? You love that. So I get it. I mean, that's why people talk about it and it's exciting. And it is like, A lot of people have trouble finding things to talk about this time of year. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in football. I mean, we had a great mental health episode today. If you guys didn't see it from the other Jeff, you'll see more of those dropping on the channel. But it was absolutely fantastic and great content for this time of year as well. But
I'm looking forward to checking that out. I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, so it is fantastic.
To that.
All right, so let's get this.
Take care of your mental health, by the way. It's tough.
Jeff, are you drinking a sports drink? Did you peel off that beer?
Yes, I'm on dragon fruit. I am a dragon fruit junkie. I drink dragon fruit smoothies all the time. By the way, they're opening a Smoothie King in Holland, Michigan. They have heard my cries. Thank you, God.
Now, if Smoothie King would hear your cries for a sponsorship, we would turn them into the real king. The real kings, not just the Smoothie Kings.
I'll just be happy if they hire me for a part-time job.
They'd become the Smoothie Kangs if they sponsored us. All right. Let's get into the next one. That's it. That's a look at the changing faces of the Detroit Lions and how rookies and schemes are moving people around and kind of what to look for as training camp starts and barring injury, how we see this thing is going to play out. All right, let's move into
Somebody watching the show just emailed me. You're a bad person. That's all I have to say. You know who you are.
All right. Let's get into the Sunday ticket lawsuit. Risen, I have to let the cat out of the bag. I pre-spent my Sunday ticket lawsuit settlement to open a Smoothie King in Holland, Michigan.
Hey, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Now, I'm starting to get a little nervous about this lawsuit. They said something about an appeal. Oh, now I'm not like Smoothie King may be short-lived there in the Holland area, my friend.
Let me pull it up here because I want to get the numbers right. I don't want to misquote myself. Excuse me. Ooh, dragon fruit got to me. Ooh. All right. I want to know the exact number because they were found. The jury of 5 men and 3 women in a U.S. District Court awarded nearly $4.8 billion in damages Thursday to residential and commercial subscribers of Sunday Ticket. Because it was locked in, you had to subscribe to DirecTV, and I did this for years, much to my wife's chagrin. We had DirecTV for a very long time, even though we didn't really like it because I had to have the Sunday Ticket.
The worst Sunday ticket I ever spent was 2008 in Chicago or in California when I lived there. It was, oh boy. I just moved. Things were really tight. I had to squeeze tight to get that one. And I didn't win shit. I was so brokenhearted.
That was a bad time. The only saving grace about that was that my daughter was born the day after the first game.
Oh, there you
so
go.
I had the other things to worry about.
Yeah. I will say,
I tell her that all the time. I'm grateful that she's alive because it saved me from the pain. Bad season.
This lawsuit, as I understand it, is solely based on DirecTV being the only provider. So NFL
Correct.
only allowed DirecTV to supply the Sunday Ticket, which artificially inflated the price. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am no lawyer. Don't take my legal advice, but if I put my legal Zoom hat on, not even legal Zoom, but if I put on my fake attorney hat and I start thinking about this, am I now, if this becomes precedent, am I now on the hook because I only allow my podcast to be available on YouTube that I am now artificially inflating the ad price? Is every creator or content distributor on the hook because they only allow? What about, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy? Is CBS going to get, I don't even know if it was on CBS. I don't know. Is CBS going to get hammered because they didn't allow it on NBC or ABC? They were the sole distributor. It seems like a pretty flimsy leg to stand on, especially when you start getting into precedent that it may set.
As you know, I listen to a lot of radio, and I'm a huge Eddie Trunk devotee from Sirius XM. He used to do that metal show on VH1. The only place you can get him now is on Sirius. Does that mean that because I basically get Sirius to listen to him and to Jose Mangan and Liquid Metal and Into the Trivia Pit, because they're not available anywhere else, and I'm forced to subscribe and pay for all these other things that I don't really want, I'm not listening to the ABBA channel. Fuck that. I'm not listening to Roadhouse Country. It's not what I'm here for. Smooth jazz, please. Like, do I have a leg to stand on? Like, they're making me do all these other things just so I can get the limited pie that I want. Like, is that part of what this lawsuit's about? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things to it. So they are appealing, obviously. The other thing that I haven't got an answer on this, and I actually asked somebody about this today. Remember when the USFL got found guilty of collusion, and because it was an antitrust thing, which this does broach into, the reward got tripled from $1 to $3. Does the 4.2 million get tripled?
So yeah,
that was my senior thesis in college, by the way. I did it on the USFL and why it failed.
Oh man,
got me some interesting interview opportunities with certain very famous people who are affiliated with the USFL.
Yeah. It's kind of bananas, right? And gun guy here, I will frame a check from the NFL. I will too after I take a picture of it and cash it. But
that's the boss move there, by the way. You do cash it and then frame it first. Yes.
But I don't know, man. I just don't see it happening. The NFL needs its nuts busted in a number of ways, right? The thing is it's crazy how big they've been able to make it. So in that regard, they've done all the right things and why? Because the competition is good. The product is fun to watch, right? Obviously, you have so many people focused on the NFL. It's doing something right? And then once you get that good at something, are you the only one? Are you a monopoly? Do you have those monopoly powers? And now when you have sure, I guess that, you can start arguing with that, but are you truly just a victim of your own success at that point? I mean, they haven't bought out other leagues. They haven't prevented competition other than being really, really good at what they do. I don't know.
It's interesting. So one of the other things that has come out about this is that people are talking about that the Lions and all other teams are going to have to pay, and I'm looking for the figure here. I believe is 400. Where's it at? $449.6 million, which is the total fine judgment divided by 32. The Lions aren't going to pay that, and nor are the Packers. That's not how that works. The NFL is a collective entity on this. Yes, in theory, it probably does come from all of them, but first off, they're going to appeal. It'll get settled down. The other thing is it's not coming out of the Detroit Lions payroll. That's a separate issue. I'm sure they have insurance for these sorts of things. I'm certainly no expert on that, but I think that's kind of one of the things that you do when you're a limited liability corporation, which the Detroit Lions are. This is what you're trying to limit. So they're not. Sheila Hamp is not going to have to write a check for $449.6 million to help pay for this lawsuit. I think that's being a little bit misrepresented in a couple of places.
I'd let her off for $1 million. If she writes me a check for $1 million, I'd forego the other 448.5.
I would certainly frame that one too.
After I cash it.
After you cash it. That's correct. Yes.
Take it to her bank, get cash. Then take the cash out and move it to my bank, so there's no take backs.
Yes, I'm not good at money laundering because I've never had a chance to do it. I'd like to try. I think I would be able to figure a way out.
Yeah, you got to be good at something, right? Figure it out.
I just don't have that criminal mind. I remember, I've told you this story. I remember the first time that I saw in a movie, I'm like, they did a drive-by shoot. I'm like, oh my God, they were in the moving car, so they could get that never would have dawned on me until I saw it. That's just not how my brain works. I have no mischievous mind.
You grew up in the country, though, didn't you?
I did. I
Okay.
grew up on a dairy farm.
A little different. Yeah. It's and I'm not saying that simple people live in the country, right? It's just a different mindset. It is a different approach, right? I got a lot of family that run farms, and they're some of the smartest, like most ingenious people.
It's a different kind of smart. It's a very different kind of street smart when your street isn't paved.
WMW2 says the Smoothies King in Holland now makes sense. Riz is trying to launder his money, trying to clean his money, and here he is playing dumb.
I'm just trying to get a job there. Like if they want to hire me part time, I will absolutely work there.
They will absolutely go broke if you did, bro. You'd get you'd bring a piece of garden hose for a straw. What are you talking about?
Show me your ways.
All right, Sunday Ticket. Don't spend your monies yet, folks. It's being appealed. I personally don't believe you're going to see anyone's going to see anything about it except the lawyers, the attorneys.
Oh, they take a tremendous chunk out of it, anyways. But I am glad that it was ruled in favor of we the people. That's nice. I'm glad that it was seen that way because, my understanding is that it was initially brought by a Saints fan living in Los Angeles who begged them, like, I only want to pay to watch New Orleans Saints games, and they did not let him do that. Yeah, and that was the genesis of this entire lawsuit. And that would be you living in Los Angeles wanting to watch the Detroit Lions. It was me living in Houston wanting to watch the Lions and occasionally the Browns.
And the exorbitant price. The exorbitant price. Because it is
and a lot of the judgment was based on sports bars, Buffalo Wild Wings. Your
that was actually the smaller part of it, but they were definitely a significant, like $1 billion of it was them.
Yes, and my guess would be that they probably have a better chance of seeing some of that money because they can probably prove more. Like they probably have documentation of what that cost them and what losses it did in impacting their books, rather than you or I being like, "Oh man, I paid." DirecTV was what $350,
$400, yeah.
It was. I think that Sunday Ticket was like $499 the last year I bought it, which was a couple of years ago. But DirecTV every month was like, God, I want to say $130, something like that.
That's bananas.
I don't know. We cut the cord, thank God.
Now it's turning into DirecTV all over again.
There was a great meme my mom shared on Facebook about people and places. She's like, I want all these different channels bundled together. So it's like, you want cable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what people want now.
I want cable, but just of the channels I like. There's so much trash.
Right.
Like there's so much. God. Anyway, here you go. This is a good way to put it to bed. I trust Riz running Smoothie King as much as I trust Matt Patricia running my offense.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that.
And Ken Button, it's funny. They say the NFL companies have to pay the fine, but all they're going to do is charge it to us. Yeah. In the end, we wind up paying for it again.
Entirely possible too.
So again, the only people making money is going to be the lawyers, because then we'll get our settlement and say, yay, now I'm going to go buy season tickets and for an exorbitant rate that pays them back for what they paid for it's just, they will
find ways
to separate you from your coinage. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to call it a show.
That's a good show, Chris. We've had a good time.
It was fun. And we talked about some football.
We haven't done a Monday night show in a long time. Yeah. We did talk a lot of football today. It's good.
See, who says there's no Monday night football in the off season? Everybody. All right. Remember, don't forget about some Patreon. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Anyone have a server I can have out there? I would love to have a server. I need a server that I can have access to. And
like run somebody that brings you your cannolis?
No, something where I have a accessible IP address. I can run Python and some other things on it. I would love, and a MySQL server. Anyone who can help me with that, I would appreciate that. I need a place.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I need a parking place. A lot of people do. I just can't. I need one that I just have the freedom. I need pseudo access. If you You really know what we're talking about. All right. Make sure if once we do that, once we get all that set up, the good side for the people that do speak English is for those who are on Slack for $10 above, they will get an ad-free feed of the podcast. And that's what I'm trying to. I got everything written. I'm like a server and some debugging away from being able to deliver that. You wouldn't believe how freaking difficult this is, dude. Like Patreon doesn't want to work with.
You're probably right, because I'm completely naive on it.
Bonkers. It's bonkers. I'm accessing 3 different APIs to it's just nuts. Anyway, all right. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast. Pants free all the time. Riz is running around like a lunatic at Jeff Risden. All the show notes, what's going on, is at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast. Be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast. That way, Riz, just wait like you did to the Kool-Aid kid's wife. What are you going to do, Riz?
I'm going to come into your ear holes automagically.
Sorry, Kool-Aid kid. You opened that door.
Hawk Tua, baby. Spit on that thing!
Thank you for tuning in. We're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no Hawk Tua, no problems, because you're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection. Love you. See you guys next week.